Your circle will change as you accomplish your goals and level up. Everybody can't go.
And we live. Y'all gonna be surprised one week when I come in here and I actually come in with the clapping instead of giving y'all my clap. If y'all cannot already tell, happy Wednesday. Today I am overly excited, okay? So I'm gonna try to contain it. I'm gonna try to keep it all in because I gotta make sure that I do this intro justice when I give y'all all of this information about who I'm bringing to you guys this week. So you can see the name on the screen, but I have to give y'all all of it, and I can't even do it in one breath. I practiced it before we got on here. I tried and I literally could not. So you're talking about over 25,000 hours of content on all across the web, from podcasts to courses, things that you will see on YouTube, conferences. And that's just the edited content in that 25,000 hours plus that I'm talking about. There's stuff in the vault. I'm sure there are things that have been edited out that we haven't even gotten. Hours on hours of content, okay? Today, I have for you guys the Bayesian sensation, Karl Phillips. He's the author of Moving Past Potential, the co-creator of Deeper Than the Brand, the creator of the Grounds Crew Guide. And some of you guys may know him as a man who brought Dr. Eric Thomas to your living room, your phone, wherever you watch YouTube at. And he's 1/4 of the Secret to Success podcast crew. And that's only part of the list. I'm gonna let him run you down some of the rest of it. And I also lovingly refer to this man as the bird, the ram, and the bush, and Moses, because he just does so much with producing, training, coaching, and to top it all off, this is hashtag husband and father goals right here for you guys, to his wife and 2 beautiful children. So with that, I bring you none other than Karl Phillips. Thank you so much for coming on with me today, big girl.
Man, thank you for having me. Thank you for that introduction. I was like, who is she talking about? Some of that stuff sounds like me, but that's a lot. All right. All right. Yeah, no, thank you for real.
Of course, of course. So I've given you a pretty much a high level introduction. Give us an introduction to you. Let us know about your brands. What do you have going on right now?
Got it. So, man, I'll take it all the way back. So, originally from the island of Barbados, right? Little island for those of you that are paying attention to the news that just a couple of days ago it just got slaughtered by a hurricane. But we're all good. But that's my roots, right? Grew up in the Caribbean, very conservative Christian home. So a lot of just honestly, as you were listening, a lot of the stuff you were saying really stems from one thing. It's like, God, I want to represent you well. So you kind of joked about, Karl doing a lot of stuff. And it's just like, hey, it just comes down to that one root thing. Like, God, whatever I touch, I want to represent you well. I want that when somebody looks at something that I had a part of, like it brings glory to your name. So that's my foundation, like super, like I was born in church. You know what I mean? Like I'm one of those that just, both my parents, grandparents, like, just that's a very important thing for me. One older brother, grew up in a family, and I stress this because my wife always says this comment: you don't understand somebody until you know where they come from. So I come from a family of 2 parents, 1 brother, and I say that because as a very young child, I learned, and I'll put this in quotes, but I learned that to be in a family, you had to be helpful, right? And I got to get my fingers in here, right? Got to be helpful, right? And truthfully, I think that's kind of the foundation of who Karl was. Like I found different ways as a child, like, you got to help cleaning the house. You got to help cleaning with dishes. And my understanding was you literally have to, I don't want to say that, to be a part of a family. Like that's what's required to be successful. That's what's required, right? For everybody to be happy, that's what's required. You got to help. So truthfully, that set the tone for my life. If you're familiar with the assessment, I am. She said it before. Jessica said the GC guy. That GC stands for grounds crew, right? For those of you familiar with the DISC assessment, it's the high S, the person that is very supportive. So that literally stems from my childhood. Like, that's what I understood being a good family member, a good brother, a good son. That's what I understood that to me. My mom was cooking. I lent her a hand. I would help cooking. She's making up the bed. She still laughs about it. She's like, it was like a wiring that happened in my childhood that if I saw somebody do their hands out, my hand would follow. Like, that's just who I was. So you just fast forward now to, like you said, of course, meeting Eric, CJ, working with ETN now. This is crazy to say, but we got to be getting close to 20 years. We got to be getting close to 20. I didn't think I was old enough to say I did something for 20 years. But, that experience has set the foundation for the rest of my life. And what I mean by that is, like, I understand that life is growth, right? We used to joke and say, like, if we didn't meet Eric, CJ and I was like, man, if we didn't meet Eric, we would have had good lives, but I don't think we would have pushed ourselves to grow at this rate, like really seek out the discomfort. So for a long time, just working with Eric and watching his grind, I'm talking about, like, he was not kidding when he said he woke up at 3:00 in the morning. So being in that kind of environment, it's like, it forces you now. I never committed to waking up at 3:00 in the morning, but guess what time I wake up now? Anybody could guess. I wake up on average about 4:30 in the morning. And that came from just years of watching Eric do what he did. And it's like, yo, this man is really about what he says, and his whole heart is about people. So you don't want to take a day, a time, anything for granted. So I want to get up early and get directly with God and get cranking, because I know that if I do everything I'm supposed to do, and this is the part that I smile at, the world really can be a better place, right? And when you talk about all the videos, like, literally my heart's desire is to make the world a better place. I want God to be proud of me. So the opportunity that presented itself to me, Eric and CJ had connected first, and then I came on and I was just, hey, whatever y'all need help with, I'm here. And eventually it turned into, Jessica, like, well, we need somebody that can capture the content. Like, he's going into these schools and all that, and this content is just kind of like, it's gone. Once he leaves the room, it doesn't exist anymore. And of course, this is before, social media world. So we weren't just capturing everything. I don't even think we had the iPhones yet. This is early. Like, I'm dating myself, right? But, like, the thing was, like, no, this content has to be captured. I just watched E go into an elementary school, and I'm talking about, like, teachers, parents, and students. Everybody left there, like, full. And it's just like, yo, this can't just die in that room. So that kind of gave birth to that understanding for me of, like, yo, I see this need here. Eric and CJ's like, hey, you seem technical. You want to do video? And I'm like, hey, this fits my desire to make the world a better place. So I kind of combined all those things, and that long-winded answer, but that's the start of the Karl that you know today.
Okay, that's fire. That's fire. And you actually ushered us right into my first question for you, which I've noticed over just my short time of your over 20-year span of working in this space. I've been here for a fraction of it by comparison. And I've seen that you've been an integral part to so many startup brands that are now highly successful. And the first thing I thought was, you know what? There's, like, all of these brands, all of these new companies that have started over, I say, like, the past 5 to 8 years that I've been heavily involved. And I'm like, how did you become the go-to guy for all of these brands? Once people start to talk about the brand, and they're like, oh yeah, because at the start, and it's like, Karl, your name always comes up as one of those, like, foundational people that help to get that off the ground. So how did you become the go-to guy for not just ET, but all of these different brands that kind of, like, stem from that family?
Yeah, so we always say you don't have to be a 10 to teach a 1, right? You don't have to be at level 10. You don't have to have the full thing to teach a 1. So the beautiful thing about the ETA journey was the fact that we learned in the trenches. Like, we literally learned in the trenches, starting from not a product, starting to do videos when social media wasn't a thing. We started, a product line eventually, shirts. He wrote a book. We started these things eventually. And guess what? Neither CJ or Eric were, I'll be polite and saying technically inclined. So anything technical, it literally fell on my plate. And again, I told you, I'm just looking for opportunities to grow, to help people. So it's like, oh, bet. I love the challenge. Like, oh, we don't know how to set up an online store. Me either. But guess what? And CJ would joke with me. His favorite line from me is, hey, give me a minute. I'll figure it out. Just give me a minute. So that became the Karl that, evolved into like, hey, I now understand how to set up a Shopify store. I now understand how to connect Stripe. I now understand all of these little intricacies. We had like maybe 2 or 3 apps. Again, I didn't develop them myself, but I worked with people. So I got an understanding of a lot of these, behind the scenes. Our CRM, we used, oh man, Infusionsoft was one of the first ones we used. We've been through so many different ones. So just because of the need that we had to grow, I was exposed to all these different things, and I took the challenge on of like learning them. I'll never forget the biggest one for me is when we started Breathe University. We've been talking about content forever. And this is back in 2012, 2013. And Eric and I started recording content. By this time, Eric had at least The Secrets to Success, maybe the second book, Greatness is Upon You. I'm not sure, but somewhere around. I think so. I think he had both. So we started recording content, like we're going to do courses. And again, we don't know, there's no model for this. We're just like, we're going to make it up. Let's just be diligent today and record. And we start recording all this content. And Eric was like, man, we should put this in some kind of course community, get it to people. And I'm like, that's a great idea. Who gonna do it? And he's like, yeah, that's you. So got to, he had an event in 2 weeks. I'll never forget this. So it's like a 2-week window that I had. And we had already recorded content. It was there. It was organized. I just didn't know how to get it out to people. So I spent 2 weeks. I'll never forget this. 2 weeks of my life. I'm talking about like maybe 16, 18 hours a day, just online searching. I came across, I'll take you all the way back. My marketing cart was the shopping cart we used. So before Stripe and all these people came around, it was like my marketing cart. I forgot the other one. But I'm trying to piece these software. There was no, for my techies out there was no Zapier or nothing to integrate different things. I literally had to put it together. So what was funny was Eric had to go speak at an event with Bob Proctor, and he wanted to have it ready by then. So it's Friday, and he's like, is it ready? And I was like, hey, I just spent 2 weeks putting it together. I don't know. It's as best as I know how to do it. He got on stage at that event, and he pitched it, and I'm sitting at home refreshing, and we did not get a single sale. Not one. I think it was probably a couple hundred people in the audience. And I'm sitting here like, yo, did I do everything correct? I tested it. I used fake cards, all kinds of stuff. But through that process and for the pressure that Eric put on me, it actually was done, and it was done correctly. We had a couple sales come in later that week. But you're talking about taking something that I had no idea about how to set it up, how to do it, and really building it. And because we were, I guess, pioneers in the space, more or less, like now leading directly to your question, other people are asking, well, how do I do a course? Like, hey, I saw you guys had success here. How do I? And then CJ, people, I don't know if people really understand the role that CJ plays. CJ is the brains of our operation. So CJ is finding people that have good ideas and bringing them to us, recruiting it, knowing the skill set that we're developing, that skill set. Now we can actually combine what we know with their skill set. Like, so you think of a Jamal, you think of a Alex, you think of an Inky, all these people, like, man, we can combine what we know, how we've built, with their superpower, right? And now we can actually, back to what I said, I just want to make God proud. I just want to help make the world a better place. So it's still all in alignment with, who I am, what I'm trying to do. And it just continued to grow. We weren't scared to learn. We weren't scared to try. We weren't scared to fail. That's what it came down to. So that's literally, I would say, kind of the reason that, you would hear my name. I'll give you one more that's funny. But again, think about Karl signing up for every software needed to run a business. It's Karl, Eric, CJ. Whose email is on all these software? So every customer email, everything, I'm putting my name, I'm putting my phone number. So by default, I'm dealing with everything. You could, like that it takes to run the companies. Half of it I don't know. I'm on the phone with customer service for half these companies figuring it out. So to your point, by the time I get to, an Inky, a Jamal, a Alex, whoever, it's like we've got like some real experience now with this stuff. Like, no, don't try this. Nope, don't try. Let's try this. Boom, bet. So yeah, that was kind of the I would say the foundation for Karl being Mr. Everywhere.
Okay. So that gives a bit of background and insight onto how you've been able to make such an impact with just being in the background. I would say personally, for the longest, like I would just be like, man, who is Karl? Videos would be up and everything, and I would hear your name repeatedly, and I'm like, well, who is this guy? What does he even look like? And for the longest, I literally thought that you were like my height, that you were gonna come out and be like this little guy that was like 5'4" or something like that. And I'm like, oh yeah, probably a little fella or something like that. And once I started seeing you in front of the camera a bit, you were, CJ always talks about how tall he is all the time. And you were sitting next to him, and I'm like, wait a minute. This is not the trick of the camera. I'm like, it looked like they about the same. I was like, that's not a small fella. And so I was like, you know what? I am going to find him at the next conference I go to. There have been a few where I was kind of looking around, and I was like, okay, well, he's been on cam, but he's still in the background doing his thing. So I had purposed it in my heart when one of the conferences I came to, after I looked for you maybe 3 or 4 times, I was like, okay, let me scope out the scene. I see they got security and stuff. I got to figure out how to get to the booth because I'm not leaving here without finding Karl. And lo and behold, that was when I came up to you to meet you in person. You were like, yeah, this is my first time just being out to meet the people. And I'm like, come on, guy. And I was super excited that I didn't have to go on a covert mission to come in and find you.
Oh no, it's not like that. And I'll just be honest, the role that I played, again, for most events, I am somewhere connected to the AV booth, the slides, the mics. Like I'm touching, some of the, even though we're hiring people, you can understand when for those of you that are hearing Eric Thomas speak, he not following slide 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So as much as we prepare, as much as he just told us, yeah, I'm gonna do these 6. Oh no, somebody got to be right there communicating. And again, at that time I was building the slide. So if he said 2 or 3 words that was on slide 27, I knew. So again, I'm behind the scenes, but really, really functioning behind the scenes. So yeah, you're tapping into my whole life over here.
So that you stuck out to me even with being in the background, not even knowing how much you were doing in the background, because one of the things that I noticed was that on your podcast, on Secret to Success podcast, I noticed I don't know how many episodes ago, I'm talking about before episode 100, that I'm like, there was this quiet, calm voice. And anytime you would pop in and give some input, like there was literally never a word wasted. It was always like super impactful. And you would just come in like a ninja and then it was like mic drop. And I'm like, yo. And I would listen sometimes with one of my best friends, and she would be like, wait a minute, like it's a lot of loud stuff, but who was that? And I'm like, what you mean? And she's like, no, not that. Who is that? And she would make me rewind it. And I'm like, oh, that's Karl. And it's like, well, why can't you find him? And I'm like, you know what? That's a good question. I don't know why I can't find him, but I will. And so once you became more visible to those of us on the outside, that in itself, you were already having like that really big impact in the background and being like that quiet, like sniper like voice that you would come through, drop some knowledge, and then just like, all right, I'm chilling again. And the more visible you became to those of us on the outside, it's like you started creating this whole new wave of impact that is still, even with so many other faces in front of the cameras, you make a new wave of impact that is unique to you, and it's like it can't be replicated, even amongst all of the giants that you're standing with. And so like after years of being in the background and building the other brands, like exploding up everybody else, what made you decide to like take that leap forward and write your book, Moving Past Potential?
So again, man, I wish I were deep and had like, here's the 3 point sessions to get you there. It was the environment I was in. Like I'm watching Eric grow, like I'm talking about like leaps and bounds. I'm watching CJ grow. And I actually told Eric this recently, because you were growing so much, I thought I was growing. I don't know if people will understand that. Like he was doing so much and developing so fast just by me being with him. I thought that was me too. And then I kept realizing, but wait a minute, no, like Eric is doing that. And there's this constant pull to grow, constant with all the guys. CJ is constantly growing. Like his ideas, like when CJ comes up with ideas, most of the promotions that you see, CJ is behind them. His ideas are just like, whoa, how'd you come up with that? So, here's the real thing that happened to me. They're constantly reading and progressing, and Karl was constantly using his hands, just to be honest with you. So I wasn't pouring into Karl as much as I should have before. I was busy just doing the work, which I loved, right? But you could understand if I'm just hands on all the time, I'm not sitting down thinking about me and where I'm going, like some of that stuff. I'm realizing, wait a minute, like I feel just full transparency, like I feel like I'm getting left behind a little bit. Like what's going on? Like they're growing, I'm not. I don't want to be left out. So some grown up conversations had to happen. Well, Karl, what's going on? And truthfully, I'm to the age now where I speak my truth, right? So transparently, I don't know that I approached it in the healthiest way initially. It was kind of like, yo, they're growing, they're leaving me. Like it kind of became that victim thing, like I'm not good enough. And that narrative started to play in my head. And it like fast forward, but it got to a point where I was like, yo, I'm just frustrated. Like I feel like everything else around me is moving and I'm not, and I'm frustrated. And if you read the book, I literally opened the book with that. Like I turned to my wife and the book was like, yo, I'm not happy. I don't know how to explain it to you because I don't have a bad life. As a matter of fact, I have a life that most people would die for, right? But like I'm not happy. And I think at the core of what it was, you knew that there was like let me say first voice. I knew there was more for Karl to do. Like there's a part of me that was, yes, I was busy, yes, I was productive doing this, but like you said, when I started to talk on the podcast, like people responded, and it was like, I really don't want y'all to respond. I want to stay in this little bubble comfort zone over here. I like this. Like this is easy. I can manage this. But I think, just truthfully, I think God made the nest uncomfortable, right? So I got to the place like, yo, I can't stay here anymore. I have to do something. I had no idea what to do, but I had to do something. So the process started with me just journaling, like just writing and praying. Like, God, I am frustrated. Like some mornings just crying, like, yo, I don't know what I'm doing. Where's my direction? And you could understand this is a point where, you know, our roles are diverging so much now. It's not like me and Eric are shooting videos every day like that anymore. Now he's on the road traveling, and that kind of slowed down because I started a family. Eric is like, dude, no, you're not going to be on the road. You got a young family. You need to be there. So he's traveling and all these events that I used to be right there front and center doing everything with him. I'm no longer there. So I'm starting to feel that distance. CJ has been gone for years. We were talking earlier today. He's like, man, I've been gone literally 15 years. So if our brand is approaching like probably 18, 19 years now, like you could see like 75, 80% of that CJ was literally gone. So all of our talking was, remote, but he's still able to, feed ideas and all that. And again, I'm sitting here feeling like, yo, I'm stuck. I'm the only one not growing. So I got to the place where, and like I said, the reason I said it's not in a healthy place, and forgive me for kind of going back and forth in the story. The reason I said it's not necessarily a healthy place because for me, it started out of comparison. They're growing, I'm not. They look like they're giants, I'm not. They're great, I'm not. So it started in a very unhealthy place. And I just spent time. I was like, yo, I'm not happy. Like, what's going on, Karl? Like, you got to process this. So the assessment came out, and that was one of the major groundbreaking things for me because it started to make sense. Like, oh, people are wired differently. So while I'm looking at Eric's and CJ's trajectory, they actually have completely different gifts that will take them in different trajectories. I don't have the same gifts, or at least not in the same capacity. All right. Can I talk? Yes, I can talk. Eric can talk. But it's not the same capacity, right? So what I realized was, dude, you are a beast in your gift, but what you're doing is you're minimizing your gift while you're watching everybody else's. So that was kind of like, then I had to sit with it for a while, like, okay, let me process this. Because what it came down to is I didn't value what I did. I value what everybody else did. And it's like, wait a minute, Karl, you can't go through life like that. So there was a moment where I sat, and it's four words, and this has kind of been the pattern for me. It's like, yo, there was a time where when you connected with Eric and CJ, and again, I came here from Barbados not knowing necessarily the full culture and everything they did for me, right? That's the first word, for, right? Then as we started to grow, we did things together with, second word. That's where I got stuck. There needed to be a point where things were done by Karl. That's the third word, right? So for, with, by. Like, I can't vicariously live through them anymore. God put me here for a reason. He gave me my specific gifts for a reason. Those things have to come out, right? So that was kind of like okay, I'm at 2 out of 4. I got the 4 with, they helped me. We did it together. Now, Karl, what are you going to do? You can't depend on somebody else the rest of your life. What are you going to do? So I had no idea. But again, I told you, I started journaling. I committed to being more vocal on the podcast because people are hearing, they're receiving. And if you go back and watch the podcast, people tell me all the time, like, dude, your transformation is, oh my gosh. And I've never gone back and looked at it. But like, my initial thought was I was there to record. Why is CJ asking me questions? Don't ask me nothing. I'm here to record. Now like you said, I'm a quarter of the podcast. Like, I'm a full-fledged member, like a talking member, right? So the trajectory for me happened when I started studying those words, for, with, by, and the last one is, this is where I am now, through, right? It's for, with, by. Like, I actually learned to do it, but it's like, Karl, you're not going to always be here. You got to be able to get the things that you, like, if editing is the thing that you do, how can you get that done through other people? Because guess what? If you feel this way, there are other people that want to use their gift and don't value it, and they're going through the exact same problem that you had. So now I get the opportunity to help other people by sharing this stuff and not doing all the work myself. So now it's level 4 is getting stuff done through other people. And I'm telling you, it's like, wait a minute. And Eric used to say this, both Eric and CJ would tell me this all the time. You're selfish. And I'm like, man, all right, we about to fight then, huh? It's like, what you mean I'm selfish? It's like, what you're doing is you're not allowing other people to get the same blessings you are. You're holding everything to yourself. You are doing all the work. And it's too much work for you, to be honest. There's so much happening, and I'm getting stressed and all that. And Eric was like, dude, if you just actually share the work, nobody's taking your position, nobody's taking your job, but you are actually stopping other people from growing their gifts and getting exposure to all the stuff that you're doing because of whatever is going on in your mind. You're not good enough. So, and sidebar, those of you that will hear this and you'll recognize it. I don't think I'm good enough, so I'm going to work extra hard and try to be perfect and try to do more and try to get, that validation from others. That's the phase I found myself in. And then it's just like, no, for, with, by, and then you got to graduate to through. Like, you got to get it done through others so they too can get that feeling that you have of accomplishing things and being able to help the world.
That's really powerful. And I'm glad you walked us through that for, with, by, and then through. One of the things that immediately stuck out was how you were talking about, like, the perceived value, your perception of your value coming from the inside out, when you were helping so many people that literally you were bringing things to people, me being one of them, that, before I even worked like my way inward, that I was a person, you didn't know me from Adam, didn't even know I existed, but your work touched me. Your work touched people that I keep company with directly, my family, my close friends. The work that you've done helped me through some really tough spots. Because with that, I mean, even though E was speaking, without you, there are so many messages. Literally, without you doing the work that you do, I wouldn't be here talking with you right now, let alone I would not have been able to make it through some of my toughest spots the way that I was able to make it through without you putting that value in. And so it really like when you're talking about how that inner perception of what the value that you were bringing, how you were undervaluing it so much. And I'm like, well, I'm just only one person, and it just means so much to me. With the work that you were given, I'm like, well, gosh, how many other people are out there? And that's one of those like rhetorical questions that we're literally never going to be able to answer it because of the work that you've done and how it has touched person after person by proxy with all of the things that you've brought to us. And then coming to that realization of and kind of like stepping into that. And I've also, of course, because I was a listener and I was a little late to the game when the podcast came out, I went back to the very first episode and I listened through, and especially like during COVID, when what else I got to do? I looked around, I looked at how the choices that I made landed me where I was at, and I was like, I can either sit here and be angry, or it's resources right here at my fingertips. I can just sit and grow instead of just sit and wait to be let out of the house. Yeah. And I was able to kind of like rapid fire through I'd say about 2 years worth of your growth by going back to the beginning of the pod and listening all the way through. And around that time, I can't remember if it was CJ or Edith said it, but it's like, well, we don't got nothing else to do, so we'll go ahead and run the conference. We here every day. And I'm just like, okay, well, we here every day. And being able to see you like pop on with different lessons and stuff, and with how quickly things were pivoting with the way that the content was brought to us, the way that you guys were teaching us, the places where there would just be a session that would drop. And I'm like, oh, Karl he doing a drop-in session. And I'm like, I know that's so outside of something that he would be comfortable with. 100%. But it was so inspiring just to see that like, okay, we're all in a situation where this is unprecedented. No one knows what's going on, what's happening. And to see like live in real time, I'm like, oh, a message comes up at 10 a.m. that you're going to teach us a session at 6 p.m. that day. And just knowing and seeing like, wow, I know this isn't something that he was like they didn't plan this, or it wouldn't have been a pop-up. And seeing you like come in, get straight on it, and you were able to teach and operate in a way that it was like it had been planned like 3 weeks prior, 4 weeks prior, and you came in already and stuff. And I was just like, wow, like this is real life action of what growth looks like when you take that commitment. And that in itself was inspiring as well, showing me that no matter how much I grew or what level I got to, even if I was afraid to take that next step or I was uncomfortable taking that next step, I'm like, well, no, I can do this. I'll do it scared. Let me just go ahead and take that leap forward. So what helped you to start gaining clarity on like what was holding you back and what was like keeping you in that like state of potential? Did you, other than the 4 items that you just gave us, was there a particular process, or did you just kind of embrace like that forward movement?
So I'll be honest, and it took a while. Of course, we're looking at it in hindsight, so I'd be like, oh man, but it literally took years of 1 step forward, 2 steps backward. Like I'd get up and I'm like, man, I believe Karl. Like, dude, do you understand what you've accomplished? Like you're changing lives, you're doing all of this, and I feel good. And then something would happen and I'd be like, man, I don't feel like I'm that great. Like, you know. And it was a constant fight. Like I said, a lot of time in prayer. Just when I became vocal, conversations with Eric and CJ, Jamal, like they constantly pour into me. It's like, dude, I've had them. CJ said to me, I'll never forget it. He's like, man, I can't wait till you see yourself the way I see you. And I was just like, dang, wow. But So I'm telling, the first thing is, please be careful of your environment. The thing that I praise God for the most right now, with my personality, you put me in the wrong environment, and I don't know where I would have been. I'm just being honest. Because again, the way the world works, negativity is so powerful. So if I'm coming up with my own negative thoughts, I'm in an environment that's not feeding me something positive, where's that going to go? And I'm saying, for a lot of people, that's where you are. And unfortunately, that could be your spouse, that could be your kids, it could be your coworkers. I don't know who it is, but I'm saying you got to protect yourself. If it's an environment you can't get out of, minimize it, or make sure you have a balance of positive stuff. You listen to podcasts, you're talking to the people that actually see who God called you to be. Don't be talking to the people that like, oh no, I remember you was a teenage pregnant mom, or you was a whatever. Like, we don't need those conversations. Negativity is too easy to just happen. So for me, number one, I would say the environment was humongous and still is. So that was step one. Step two is, I heard somebody say the fastest way to grow old is to stay comfortable. And I was like, excuse me? The fastest way to grow old is to stay comfortable. I was like, man, I want to enjoy my life. I got young kids. Like, I really want their experience to be something good. So having kids, that would be another, big, whoa. I can't let them experience this side of Karl. I can't let them experience this side of their dad that, he's unsure about everything he's doing. He's overthinking, he's super like introverted to a fault. Not that like you're an introvert, that is what it is, but no, you're introverted to the fact where it'll hurt you. Like, people are doing stuff and you know that they don't have your best interest at heart, but you're not speaking up for yourself. I can't be that person. Like, I have kids, like they have to see a different side of me. So like I said, work in progress. 1 step forward, 2 steps back, 1.5 steps forward, 2 steps back, 2 steps forward, 2 steps back, 2.5 steps forward. You see what I'm saying? So it's been a constant, like, Karl, when you wake up today, like, I need you to lock in. So I used to joke at people with the daily mantras and all that. I was like, man, that's some crap. Oh no, it's not. The thing that I would say is giving me the most success now is my daily routine. And that sounds so cliche. They're like, oh, here we go again. I know we heard that before. No, I'm not kidding with y'all. What the daily routine did is allowed me to set time for my precious self. So before, I would wake up and run to the first task, whatever it was, an email, a text message. If Eric called at 3 something in the morning, I ain't see it till 5. I'm jumping up and I'm ripping and running. And it's like, I never really got to enjoy Karl. Like, I was always doing something. And again, I enjoyed that. But that's only part of it. Like, think about like whatever you are, a doctor, a teacher, a lawyer, whatever, you're an entrepreneur. There's a part of your career that you love, but that's not your full identity. And you know that. Somebody, like, we introduce ourselves like, yeah, I'm a teacher. No, that's not who you are. So for me, I would be introducing myself as, I work with Eric Thomas. And I remember one day I was like, yo, Karl, you introduce yourself by using Eric Thomas's name. Somebody just says, hi, I'm so-and-so. You're like, I work with. It's like something is not right. And again, I'm proud of what I do with Eric, but it's like, that's not your identity. That's something that you do. So it came to a point where I had to just kind of realize, like, yo, who are you? And that led me into like, okay, you got to spend time with yourself. And again, doing so much, that was tough. I'm like, all right, you got to commit 15 minutes a day just to you thinking. At first, it was a wreck. My mind is just thinking about all the stuff I got to get done. And I feel like I'm wasting time sitting here thinking, well, I could have just been doing stuff. But it's like, nope, you got to spend time thinking, Karl. Make that 20 minutes, make that 30 minutes. And now I am so proud to tell you my morning routine is probably about 3 hours. Like, I get up at 4:25-ish in the morning. I'm doing time with God. I'm going to the gym. I come back from the gym. I take my shoes off, go outside in the grass and just grounding, listen to binaural beats. Sometimes I'll just lay on the grass. And it's just like, yo, be present. Enjoy this. Don't get worried about today and so caught up with today. And I'm proud to tell you, like, I've been doing that routine now for months, consistently. I look at the little app that I use for the gym, and it's just like red. Dang, you've been crushing it, Karl. I'm proud of you. And that's when I started kind of really embracing the affirmations. Like, I look at myself, I was like, yo, I'm proud of you. Like, you actually do what you said you were going to do. I can trust you. I'm proud of you. So bit by bit, I'm starting to realize, like, yo, I'm a dude that's reliable, not for everybody else. I'm a dude that's reliable for me. Now, God, if I can actually operate with integrity with everything you give me, including myself, because watch this. I can't say that God is proud of me helping the world and I'm falling to pieces. Like, it's holistic, right? They both have to happen. Yes, I want you here to help everybody else, but it's not at your demise. You're not supposed to, what they say, light yourself on fire to keep other people warm. Like, that's not the goal. The goal is to you grow, and as you grow, you help. And as you grow, you help. And as you grow, you help. So the last, like I said, couple months, maybe closer to a year now, it's just like I've gone super internal. There's stuff I got to let go. There's some stuff that I just got to stop doing. There's some stuff that I should say no to, but I'm still a soft, passive aggressive dude, so I just ignore your call. So we're working. That's a work in progress. So you still get a no, but you're not getting the Karl confident, like, yeah, no, I can't do that. Talk to you soon. You're getting the, man, I ain't hear him. I guess he can't do it. All right, I'll figure it out.
If you're enjoying the conversation so far, join us next week for a part 2 of this dynamic conversation with Karl Phillips and another Everybody Can't Go Convo.